Hey, garage people. Coming back at you from underneath the Camaro. It is now Saturday, March 1st. Let's see. Yesterday, I got a little bit done, and then the girlfriend and I went to a show, and I ended up doing some work on Thursday after I finished my last video as well. So, hence the reason for me being underneath the car. I'll spin you guys around, and we'll show you where we're at and what the plan is for today and for Sunday tomorrow, and then the early part of next week as well, because we're getting real close to having a fully functional car and not just a cool looking accumulation of parts on a lift. So, whoop! All right, let me scooch over here. So, as you can see, we have a drive shaft installed up to the back of our T56. New rear end here. This has been filled with gear oil and limited slip additive and filled it until it came out the drain plug, and then I capped that off and I got my plug installed in here. Shout out TA Performance. This thing is sweet. And as you can see moving forward, everything installed nicely up here. Wiring harnesses are loomed out of the way. That rear O2 there goes up above the transmission and into the cab through the hole right there. And that front one goes up and connects to the jumper that leads to the wiring harness. So we're pretty well set under here, except for this little rubber splash guard, this little cover for the sway bar end links, and then excuse me, oh, that right there, our steering linkage. So that little splash guard goes right here eventually. That little metal bracket fits on those two bolt holes right there, and then around this little stud right here. That nut comes off, and then the hole slides over, and then that bolts on. But what we need to do before we get the weight, or before we tighten these bolts down, is get the weight on the car, so it's like it's going to be when it's on the road. So I'm holding off on that. But then also, the other reason I have that splash guard off is because it covers right here, and right. Let's see if you guys can see there. Brighten up. Kind of works. That right there is our steering box where the bottom shaft has to go on. And it threads up into this dark space, and the steering wheel pops out up there. So that has to go on. And then we have our trick new Hawks Motorsports lid, 104 millimeter opening here, and a new LS7 MAF card, mass airflow sensor, LS7 style with the blade cartridge cassette, whatever you want to call it, and a nice honeycomb in there to a linear, make the airflow in a nice linear direction so it can read good. And then we'll connect this bellows to here, and then the other end of it will connect to our throttle body. This is our air filter base. So I guess I could lower us down here. Yeah, looking pretty good here. This is done except for the exhaust is what's next down here, and we'll mess with our pipes and our cutout, which is sitting in the cab right now. So we'll get this bad boy set down. Whoop, forgot to pull the pins. All right, now it just comes down. All the way down. So that stuff on the bench there will fit on here, plug into the throttle body, and then we'll be done in this part of the underhood area. And the next thing we'll have to do is get our AC connected here. That goes to there, and this goes to here. These plugs all need to be connected, but I'm going to hold off on that until we get our computer situated and our wires passed through there, so we don't have any plugging and unplugging unnecessarily. We can hook our throttle cable up eventually. We can mount the speed bleeder. The brake master has to come off, so I can tighten these shock mount bolts here. And then my little shock tower brace has to go on as well, but that is going to be, the shock tower brace goes on these ones, so that's a little bit easier, but these will have to be tightened. This gets removed, these get tightened, this goes back on, I can bleed the brakes, but while this is off, I'll put the steering shaft on, because I'll have better access to it. There is the steering wheel end right there. And the other end is, yeah, tough to see from here, but it's, yeah, it is not focusing. Great. Yeah, so pull apart a couple things, finish some stuff up here, and then we'll have wires to route, and then we're pretty much done under the hood. And then it's onto the exhaust, and then we can put some oil in the motor. And then after that, it is inside. Oh, and then wiring up the nitrous solenoids as well, so we'll get those under the hood. And then after that's done, it's inside for wiring and exhaust stuff and waiting until the computer gets back on Monday. So, got a lot of fiddly stuff to do here. I'll keep you guys posted as I make some progress. But yeah, not too exciting, but when it's done, it'll be very nice. So, yeah, see you shortly. Hey, 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 garage people. Back at you. It is now Monday. March 3rd? Yes, March 3rd. And, let me turn you around here. My stash of parts is pretty much gone. I got my engine stand back in the corner along with the crane. I have to customize my shock tower brace to fit over the new intake. I may get a Hotchkiss one later on, but for now I'm going to modify this SLP one. We got our random tools over here, some coolant still to go in, our brake fluid and clutch, which has already been put in, rear end oil, which is in, but we got the change right there. We got our final oil change right here. We got our second oil change right there. And we have our first oil up on the bench. So, under the car, we are done. Everything is here that needs to be here. This is for the cutout. That is all that is left. There's the wire coming down from under the trans. I'll wire that in, and then that will be done. That is the last thing that needs to happen under here besides oil being put in the motor and an oil filter being put on. And then coolant after we leak check stuff, or after we pump for oil pressure and get everything plugged back in and the plugs in. So coolant will be last, which is sweet. The only thing left here is the exhaust. So that is what we have to finish, not the rest of today, but tomorrow. And the reason why we're not doing it today is because our computer is done at Doug Rippey Motorsports. Woohoo! So, with that being said, I'll lower you guys down here and show you what I've been up to. So, here we are lowered down. And if you look in here, check that out. It's an interior. These are the panels that go under the dashboard on the driver's side. And the only reason they're not connected yet is because I have to adjust my clutch lever, and then we will bleed the clutch and put those on. But as you can see, there's a lot of wires in there, but they all get routed to where they need to go, and they'll get covered up by the plastic piece, that little piece. And then this one is kind of the knee board. That's for the trunk. And these are my two switches that I added. That switch on the left with the little dot is the nitrous arming switch, master arming switch, and that little blue button is the purge button. So that should be really fun. Got everything tucked in up here how I need it. This will be for that purge button. This is for the purge button, and these are for that master switch. The clutch rod is up under there. Right in there, and we will adjust that as per the directions for tick racing, because that's the master cylinder I got. Those two cords that are disconnected are for the fuel pressure gauge, and we will set that up when we have electricity. And then the only other thing we need to do is bleed our clutch and brakes, and then we will reset the level, that travel on that rod when we have the motor running, and then we know our clutch will be set correct. So everything's pretty much done in here. The only thing I have left to do is put a disconnect on these wires so I can fish them through this guard here, so that I can set my controllers on my shift knob. So that's just sitting right there for now. Yeah, I may slice this open a little bit, like remove some of the stitches and then just try to stitch it back together. I don't know, we'll see. I'm still considering on that one. So we have to get this handle through there and this switch. So we'll see. But under the hood, obviously we're dusty here. So open the stable, check out the horses, and yeah, we're done. We got our air box set how that's going to be, plugged into our throttle body. I have to get 2 hose clamps to clamp over this rubber connector here because my stainless steel ones weren't big enough, so I'll grab 2 of those. Brakes are all plumbed and tightened. Everything's tight. There's fluid in the reservoirs. Our nitrous solenoids are wired in. The purge valve is there, and there's the nitrous solenoid. There's the fuel solenoid. We got our purge nozzle coming out right on the cowl here so we can see it from inside. It's gonna be awesome. Everything is rigged up. This little ground has to get connected with a supplementary one off the battery as well. We got power going to our amplifier and our accessories right there. That'll connect to the battery. And then everything else feeds through here. I got my wires tucked in through my grommet there, along with my nitrous line. So yeah, everything came together real well on that side. Got the carpet back in. Everything is neat and tidy up under there. So, I am going to mosey up to Buffalo and swing by DRM and pick up my computer, because that gets reinstalled right here. And then we plug our 2 connectors into it. Easy peasy. You can see my blue wire goes to my gauge there for my shift light. That's a tack number coming off number 10 wire there. And then this blue and red computer get plugged in, and they will sit right there. So that's all that needs to go up in there. And we are done under here, except for the coolant and then the AC as well. So very fun. That pretty much concludes everything up until we do tomorrow. We will put in our fluids, we'll do our exhaust, and we'll crank for oil pressure. And they'll probably try to make some noise after that. So I am going to get myself cleaned up and head north, and I'll tune back in with you guys tomorrow. after I've acquired my computer and a couple other random little things, and we'll get this baby full of oil and hopefully making some noise. Yeah, see you tomorrow. Hey, garage fans, motorheads, friends, family, and everyone else. As you can see, I'm under the Camaro, and it is now Tuesday, March 4th, which means yesterday I picked up my computer at Doug Rippey Motorsports, which now has base tune on it. It is installed up under the hood. I have my first set of oil in the car. The oil filter is on. Everything under the hood is done. The only thing I need to do actually is I have the air filter off, so I need to check that I got wide open throttle, pushing on the pedal. And other than that, it's done. Eventually I'll modify my strut tower brace back there, but that's secondary. And the only other things that I've got on my list is right here. I gotta put on the exhaust, which is on the floor, and that includes my new cutout, which replaces this little section. The cutout will go there, and then wire into that wire right there, which is already conveniently placed. And that should all go together nicely. Have to be a lot of fun. After that, I gotta brake my brakes and clutch. Jenny will help with that. She's gonna pump the pedal while I move around the car. I gotta do the rears and then move to the fronts, which the fronts are 4 pistons, so they have inner and outers, so I'll bleed all of those. Then I'll do the clutch. Then after that, the wheels can go on. I'll lower down, put some weight on it, tighten the sway bars. The battery is in, but I'll plug it in and then check the electronics for smoke, make sure everything's good. And at that point, I'm going to program my gauges and make sure they're happy. I have to pull out the AFR bung out of the AFR plug out of the pipe there to program it. And then after those have been programmed, I will crank for oil pressure. And then I'm either going to start it briefly or I'm going to go ahead and add the coolant right away after I got oil pressure. I'll probably just add the coolant. And then I'll start her up. And then after that, I got to adjust my clutch with the roll test and the rev test as per TIC racing. And that's just to adjust the travel depth on the pedal, which is pretty easy. I've done that before. And then I'll put my seat in the access, because I no longer need access to under the pedals or under the dash. And that includes, after I adjust the clutch, I'll put the bottom panels on, the kick panels, then the seat in, and then I'm done. Yeah, we're coming up on the end pretty quick. Very excited. The last big mechanical thing is that exhaust, so I'm going to wrangle with that real quick, hopefully get it in before Jenny gets home. She should be home here half an hour, somewhere, something like that, hour maybe. And then she can help me, excuse me, she can help me bleed the hydraulic systems, so that'll be one more thing off the list. Then all the fluids are in and accounted for except for the coolant, which I'm going to do that after I crank it for oil pressure. Just in case the oil pressure doesn't come up, then I don't have to drain the coolant to attend to something else, which I can't imagine the oil pressure won't come up. So yeah, hopefully it'll just be a formality, but I don't want to do it and then undo it. So we will wait to add the coolant until after we get oil pressure. Then we'll add coolant, and then we'll crank, and then it can just run and be warm. So, yeah, that's the order we're gonna do that in. I'll put a little arrow from there to there, so swap the position on those two. So, just watching some YouTube. I'm gonna put that exhaust in. See you in a bit. Hopefully, start her up tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. Can drive on Wednesday, and on Thursday, break the rear end in, make sure everything's okay, check for leaks, make sure it's all happy, and then hopefully before I leave for vacation on Saturday, I can bring this puppy back up to Buffalo or Waverly on Friday and drop it off with the professional and amazing and guru status Mr. Todd Cleesby at Doug Rippey Motorsports, and he'll put a tune in it. So we got that to look forward to. YouTube's being weird over here. All right, I'll get back to you guys in a bit.